administration of justice. That's in relation to using Twitter in the courtroom. What a lot of people who are not from the UK might not be aware of is TV cameras aren't allowed into a place of law courtroom. So Twitter would be looked at as, could it be something that could be used to, say, inform people outside of the court what's been saying inside courts? But this judge has come forward and said that on a case-by-case basis, it can be considered, and in itself, it doesn't seem to be a problem. So that's just really an interesting related technology type thing. Roy, is there anything you wanted to add on our discussion of peer-to-peer copyright Twitter before we move on to your subjects that you have?
Yeah, I thought we could. Well, it's kind of related to when you talk about copyrights and you talk about the issue of sharing files and sharing usually media files of some sort. You can talk about software as well. And I think the crackdown on always whenever you see a crackdown on sharing of media, you always should be concerned about what happens to software, because it kind of goes hand in hand. And so I wasn't really going to be so much involved in the conversation about copyrights now, but I think we have some interesting news today, because I was going to mention I think Mandriva 2010.2 is out, and also PC Linux OS. It's, I think, 2010.12, they call it, like the month, has been released, I think on Sunday, or I think it was on Sunday. And that's kind of interesting to me, because I've set up some people in such a way that they use Mandriva or they use PC Linux OS. I think they are excellent operating systems, especially as a replacement for Windows XP. That's the way they were built to inherit those same users.
Well, just very briefly to add to that, because I ran an article just released today, this morning, in regards to Windows XP and the Acer Aspire netbook. So I'd like to. So when you finish with the piece that you want to cover, Roy, I'll add that onto the end just as a piece of information for anybody who's looking at replacing the XP deployment on their Acer Aspire 1.
Yeah, well, I don't have a specific article about these things. I don't think you need any. People can look at the screenshots of the operating systems, which mostly means looking at the wallpapers and things, because everything else is just very generic and isn't especially unique compared to other distributions. But I'm trying.
So then what I'll do is
PC Linux. Right, I was just going to quickly jump in there and say PC Linux has always been a very nice looking, aesthetically very nice looking distribution. It always has been. So.
Well, I mean, what I'll throw in very quickly, because these are not so much new releases, but I covered it on my blog just this morning. Like I say, I was about a year or so ago, I bought a netbook to take away on holiday with me, and I was very unimpressed by the Windows XP performance. Unfortunately, as I said in the last show, I had a broadband dongle, which was one of these pay-as-you-go dongles, and it just would not work with Linux. The metering system it employed just would not allow me to run it on the Linux operating system. But now things have changed. I've got my Android phone. I can tether it. I can set up a Wi-Fi hotspot with my Android phone, and I've been looking at some distros to take away with me, because I'm going to be staying with relatives over the Christmas period. Me and the family are shipping off out very shortly, so I want to have a net presence, and I want to be able to do all the things I can do on my desktop, albeit on a smaller screen on a little netbook. So I was having a look at a few distros there, and I've settled on one. I won't go through the article here because I've already discussed it in length on my site, and if people are interested, do have an Acer Aspire 1 and they're very unimpressed with its performance, they should check out that article, which will be linked in the show notes. I mean, what I would say, and just to give listeners probably who've already using Linux, and I don't need to say this to, I'll give them a quick example. From the first boot of this Windows XP netbook, it was a full 4 minutes for it to be from switching it on to being actually ready and functional to operate. Windows employs what I call some very good psychological tricks to make you believe that it's booting faster. And the first one is during the loading, when you get the nice Windows XP logo up that looks very familiar and friendly and happy, the progress bar underneath is whizzing along very, very fast. That's not a measure of how quickly it's loading things. It's just moving fast, but it implies that it is loading quickly. And then when you get to the desktop finally, and the screen comes up and it looks all ready and it's shiny and happy, it's not ready yet because the hard drive is still flashing and having a fit, and it's still loading everything in. So this netbook from first boot was taking about 4 minutes to be functional. But the big surprise was when you came to turn it, shut it off, which it took almost a full 2 minutes to turn the thing off, unless you just wanted to whip the battery out. So when you compare that to any of the Linux distros that I tried, and I won't say which one I settled on because you'll have to read the article, and I'll get myself a few more hits. It took about 2-3 seconds on Linux to power down the machine, and I think the longest boot time for one of the distros I tried was about 50 seconds, if that. And it just shows that now the power and the capability of Linux that can go on absolutely anything you throw it onto, and it's just a testament to how lightweight and how functional it is. And like I said, I've got a fully functional netbook, which gives me more work power than I ever had with the Windows XP system. So that article will be on my site. I know Gordon uses a netbook, and I know that there's quite a few people who, when I bought mine, jumped in at the same time, because I remember that when I first switched the XP netbook on, I thought it was defective. So I had to actually ring people up and say, look, is mine faulty? And apparently 4-minute boot time is quite acceptable to somebody who's used to using Windows. But moving on. Sorry,
a few comebacks on that. I mean, I do use a netbook. It's Debian Squeeze I use with XFCE, and it works great. But no, the thing about the Windows has got a strange thing. If you say to Linux, right, shut down, you're telling it to shut down, and it shuts down. But with Windows, it's more of a suggestion. Could you shut down, please? Because, I mean, how many times have you went to shut down, and it's had updates? And it'll say that it's now going to apply the updates, and you've got to sit and wait for it. We've got 2 of 19, 3 of 19, 4 of 19. And you're looking at this thinking, I just told you to shut down. Yeah. And I have to sit and wait for you to go through this. Before it even shuts down. The bus coming in 5 minutes. I need to leave. And you're sitting doing your updates. Could you not have done that while the desktop was actually running? Do you have to do that now? I mean, you told me you had updated. You lied to me. You told me you had updated and you've not, And then, even then, when it has to restart again, after that, you think, well, okay, it's delayed the shutdown thing, and made me late for the bus and whatever. So you come back the following day, and you start it back up again, and then, as it's logging in, it's applying the update. So what did you just do yesterday?
Yeah.
You told me you were applying these updates before you could shut down, and I had to please wait. I did that, I missed my bus, and I'm now rebooting again, and you're telling me you're applying the updates. What were you doing yesterday? So, yeah, I mean, that's the one thing there. But, I mean, on the actual time when you actually log into Windows as well, or log into a desktop, you still need the various applets to click into place, and the various services and all that, the auto-run stuff, to click into place. And I've noticed with Linux, that tends to be, it's like you see your desktop, your wallpaper, and then within seconds, the icons are filled in, the panels appear, the things have appeared on the panel. It's functional. You can right-click, you can do stuff, you can start opening stuff. But with Windows, you see your desktop, and you're still only a fraction of the way there yet, because if you look down on the system tray, you've got gradually all these things popping into place. A lot of them that you never even asked for. It was programs that you installed, decided off their own back that they absolutely must be run at boot, so they add themselves to the auto start. So yeah, there's that. So with a lot of these things sort of loading themselves into RAM, that's another way that that Microsoft can sort of boost the figures. It can, for example, Internet Explorer can start pretty quick, but I mean it's pretty much sitting in RAM. That's why it can start quick, it's because it starts at boot, where other browsers like Firefox and Opera and all that, they don't start at boot, so they've got further back and on the track to start from, if that makes sense.
But I mean, the one thing that I touched on my article, which I'm surprised nobody else has mentioned before, I look at my netbook experience with Windows XP. Now, I believe Windows XP came out 2000.